Kirby's Air Riders is deeper, cleaner, and faster than the original. I just got done playing it and it has me so excited. I'm here at Gamescom 2025 and I just got done playing Kirby Air Riders. We got to play 2 rounds of City Trial, which, if you remember from the original, has you build up your ship and then you compete with it at the end with other players. People who played the original should recognize this. However, I did notice some key takeaways and changes to the original that might have people excited. First of all, it seems much faster than the original. At the beginning, you start out kind of slow in City Trial, but by the end, once you've picked up a lot of abilities and swapped out your vehicle, you are flying around that map. Number 2, it feels much deeper. It still keeps that simplicity of the original. However, a lot of the depth comes from the different characters you can use because each one has different abilities, and then depending on all the things you pick up, it can dramatically change how your vehicle handles. Finally, it feels a lot cleaner than the last one. It seems like Sakurai and team have taken a lot of notes from their previous game, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, to add a lot of flair to this. It feels very good to play. First up, Kirby Air Riders seems a lot faster than the original. You start out kind of slow as you're building up your vehicle, but once you start collecting more power-ups, you are slingshotting around the map in a way that I don't really remember from the original game. Other than that though, the map itself feels very similar to the original. Obviously, it's bigger, there are more areas, there are different nooks and crannies, but you can definitely tell it took a lot of inspiration from that original and just kind of build it out. Now, after you built out your vehicle, then you would do challenges and you got to pick which one you wanted to do. When you get there, it'll recommend which challenge is best for your vehicle. From there, you'll either play against other players who chose the same challenge, or you could potentially do one by yourself. So for my challenge, it was just me and one other player, even though we were playing with 4 other human players, and I think like 12 CPUs or something like that. On top of that, this Kirby Air Riders feels much deeper. So one thing about the original Kirby Air Riders that Sakurai mentioned in the Direct is that you really only used one button to play. Your vehicle moved forward on its own, so there's no accelerate button. You were just moving constantly. There's a drift button, and that was about it. There's a couple more buttons, which makes it slightly more complicated in that regard. However, it still feels very simple. I think the way the depth comes in is the character you pick or the vehicle you use. Different vehicles obviously have different attributes. There's a lot of familiar vehicles from the original that people will recognize. There's also some new ones. In the round I played, I think I got one called like the paper plane, and it was apparently very weak. Like I could get knocked off easy, it could get blown up, but it was very good at gliding. So I could take off, fly around a ton. But then there were some other familiar ones like Shadow. I remember I really liked the Shadow back in the day. That's also here. Now, on top of that, you're also picking a character, and these characters, I think, have different attributes, but more importantly, they have different abilities. So with Kirby, and when you get your ultimate ability ready, you just automatically swing your sword a ton and attack enemies nearby, but each character has their own. Unfortunately, I only got to play with Kirby, so I didn't really get to see the other ones. However, I did record some gameplay of Meta Knight, so you should be able to see Meta Knight's ultimate in this video. The last big thing I noticed is that Kirby Air Riders feels a lot cleaner than it did back in the day. The UI feels much better. It presents information in a way that's easier to parse. For those who've played Smash Bros. Ultimate, Sakurai's last game, the UI feels very similar, and I think there's a reason for that. It seems very clear, easy to understand, and it also has that flair that Super Smash Bros. Has. Whenever something important in Smash Bros. Happens, the camera would zoom in, it would slow down for a second, they'd get launched off the map. Feels very similar to that. There's a lot of very smart design choices in order to make all the little actions you do feel very impactful. I also got to check out some of the tutorials where it just kind of teaches you how to play. A lot of it was kind of designed for the races. Unfortunately, I didn't get to play any of the races. For those who played a lot of Kirby Air Rider back in the day, you probably spent most of your time playing City Trial anyway. Anyway, those were my impressions of Kirby Air Riders. Very excited for the full release, so stay tuned to GameSpot for more coverage. Comes out November 20th, 2025. And you know, looking around, it's safe to say that video games have come a long way since Pac-Man.